Okay, on this computer. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host and researcher, Louisa. Today is May 23rd, 2020, and it's Friday. No, I'm sorry, it's Saturday. It's not Friday. What a day, what a day. Okay. It's GoldFish Report number 498, and this is our week 173 POTUS report. Sorry, everybody. It happens sometimes when you go live. Let me just stop and say hello to everybody and welcome you all. Okay, I'm going to get started. Hi, everybody. How are you? I hope you're all having a great weekend. We have a lot to talk about. I think I'm going to show some clips of some of the latest developments that are happening. Some things are, I would say, developments. Some things are setbacks. But this is a little overall view of what's going on in different places. We are obviously going to talk about what the president's been busy doing. So I want to welcome everybody. I hope you're all enjoying your weekend. It's very rainy here in the Northeast, stormy and rainy. So a lot of things happening this week. The House Judiciary Committee had a meeting, had a roundtable discussion with a number of Democratic representatives. They formed a subcommittee to discuss COVID and the prisons and jails, and we're going to share a little bit of that because why should we care about who's in prison? Well, because maybe a lot of people who are in prison are there wrongfully and maybe don't really deserve to be there, and still, is it a death sentence? I mean, there have been like 50 some odd deaths in the prison system from the COVID COVID-19, and there's going to be representatives talking about certain areas and certain prisons that have had the deaths and who have had very high percentage of their inmates with testing positive. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about something that's happening in Canada. And I know this is really a POTUS report, but I have to show this to you because it's extremely disturbing. There's also, and people have to wake up, and they have to know that this is happening. We're also going to share, I'm also going to share a Tucker Carlson piece talking about what's going on, and it's an update on what's happening in New Jersey, talk about fascism, right? And then of course we're going to have another screen share video, and we're going to talk about the president. So why don't we get started? I'm going to screen share the GoldFish Report Twitter page, and we're going to just take a look at some of the news regarding the president and what the latest is. So let's take a listen to really a wonderful, wonderful superwoman of a press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, and we're going to listen to what she has to say today. This is really 5 good questions any reporter should ask. So let's hear what Kayleigh has to say.
And I laid out a series of questions that any good journalist would want to answer about why people were unmasked, and all sorts of questions. And I just wanted to follow up with you guys on that. Did anyone take it upon themselves to pose any questions about Michael Flynn and unmasking the President Obama spokesperson? Oh, not a single journalist has posed that question. Okay.
Michael Flynn's name wasn't
so
masked.
I would like to lay out a series of questions, and perhaps if I write them out in a slide format, maybe we're visual learners and you guys will follow up with journalistic curiosity. So number 1, why did the Obama administration use opposition research funded by a political organization and filled with foreign dirt to surveil members of the Trump campaign? Number 2, why was Lieutenant General Michael Flynn unmasked? Not by the intel community entirely, but by Obama's chief of staff, by the former Vice President Joe Biden, by Susan Rice, by the Treasury Secretary. I mean, this is extraordinary. And, if it were political appointees in the Trump administration, I can guarantee you I'd have questions in my inbox right now, but apparently Obama's spokesperson does not. Why was Flynn's identity leaked? In a criminal act. It is a criminal act to leak the identity of Michael Flynn to the press, but it happened. Where are the questions to Obama's spokesperson? Because my team would be running around this building should this have happened under the Trump administration. Why did the DOJ, Sally Yates, learn about the unmasking from President Obama? So much for going by the book. As Susan Rice said 3 times, thou doth protest too much, Susan Rice. And then finally, question number 5. Why did James Clapper, John Brennan, Samantha Power, and Susan Rice privately admit under oath they had no evidence of collusion while saying the opposite publicly? It's a long weekend. You guys have 3 days to follow up on those questions, and I certainly hope the next time I ask, some hands go up, because Obama's spokesperson should be asked those questions, because President Trump's spokespeople certainly would be.
All right. She's just amazing, isn't she? Excellent job. And she's actually absolutely right. So what the Trump administration is doing is absolutely, talk about draining the swamp. They're holding the feet to the fire of the Obama administration, holding them accountable and not letting the public forget what happened, and that we have to, have some kind of integrity within the press and stop the fake news. I mean, what this is exposing is that the press has been used simply as a propaganda tool for the Democrat deep state party. Many of us know that, but there's a lot of people who are just waking up to that. So that's very interesting, and I think she did a great job with that. I'm going to go back to my main page here. We're going to just listen a little bit to Mark Levin's appearance on Hannity. And as everybody knows, people have been listening to, following up with, "Hi everybody, how are you?" Yeah, please give a thumbs up if you like the report tonight. I do appreciate it. It does help to circulate the report a little bit better. But what Mark Levin's going to talk about here is what's going on with the DC District Court and Judge Sullivan, and how unhonorable this man is actually acting. And it is so typical. It is so not uncommon that this happens anyway. So, but it's being exposed for everyone to see, and to see it for what it is. So let me go and screen share that in case you missed this. This is a really important clip for you to hear. Sorry, just take 1 second. I had the wrong window up. Okay, thanks. Here we go. We started in at, here.
They ought to take a wing in Leavenworth and put all these guys in there. What they have done to this country, the rule of law, the Constitution, and now our courts with this judge, Emmett Sullivan. And I want to talk about him in particular. What is a judge? And what is a judge supposed to do? You know, my first book was on judges. It's called Men in Black, how the Supreme Court is destroying America. Well, actually, it's worse than that. Judges are human beings. They're imperfect human beings. When you look at judges over history, some have been great, some have been morons, some have been freedom fighters, some have been racists and bigots and corrupt. And I'm just talking about the Supreme Court justices. What's happened here? We have an imperfect human being. He's of flesh and blood, and he obviously hates Trump, and he honestly loves the Obama administration, because that's what's going on here. This is the Obama administration against the incoming Trump administration, the Trump candidacy, and the Trump presidency. It is an absolute disgrace. Now, I want to remind this judge of a couple of things. You like to be called Your Honor. Your Honor. You're an American citizen, and it's your job to protect what goes on in that courtroom and protect the defendant. Protect the defendant. Under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, Fourth Amendment, Judge, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Put aside this counterintelligence crap. That was a fiction from day one. Mr. Flynn is first and foremost an American citizen, as is everybody else who's been unmasked by the Obama administration. They used the surveillance of the Russian ambassador, and I suspect many others, as an excuse to backdoor their way into eavesdropping on American citizens, particularly those who work for the Trump administration, in clear violation of the purpose and intent of the Bill of Rights and the Fourth Amendment. Let me explain another amendment to the judge. That would be Amendment 5, the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. How the hell can you look at the documents that have been released recently on what the government did, specifically the Obama administration did, to Michael Flynn, among others, and say that there was due process of law. You have these phony former federal prosecutors, these phony former Democrats who worked in the Justice Department. You have these clowns on TV who are splitting hairs. He pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty. The man never had due process under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. Now, let me help out the judge a little bit further. You need what's called a case or controversy. You don't have a case, and you don't have a controversy. The parties have dropped out. The parties want to get out. You don't have the right to continue to do what you're doing. So what does the judge do? I don't like what the parties are doing. Whoa. What are you doing, Judge? I don't like it. I'm going to invite anybody who wants to file an amicus brief, a homeless guy, the guy at the fryer at McDonald's, and specifically, I'm going to ask another former judge, also appointed by Clinton, as this judge was. I loved his op-ed in the Washington Post on Monday. He says, I have all this power. I can ignore the executive branch and separation of powers. I can do whatever I want. I want him to send me a brief and tell me what I can do. In other words, this case.
You know what?
That's it.
So the reason I'm sharing this is because, in case you missed it, this is really highlighting, the outrage over Judge Sullivan and what Judge Sullivan is doing. He's really abusing his power under color of law, and he doesn't have the law supporting him, in fact, and it's playing out publicly for people to see this firsthand. So General Flynn was protected by the Fourth Amendment. He was protected by the Bill of Rights. He was protected by the Fifth Amendment, which guarantees us due process. And he was denied all of this. So what happens, right? So General Flynn had to go sell his home to hire an attorney because it's a civil case. Anybody can bring a civil case against you, right? Even if you have a criminal, you might want to get a private criminal attorney. But if you have a public defender, you're entitled to one in criminal court, but in civil court, you are not. Anybody can sue anybody in civil court, and you can have to sell your house to get someone to defend you. This is so un-American. This is so, against, really, it's very much against what America stands for. We are not here to, this is about sabotage. I mean, this is about not giving a person a chance. I mean, how do you recoup that money? You could always try to file then another suit once it's dismissed and found that there was no allegations, any wrongdoing. You can then file another suit against the person to try to recoup expenses. But is everybody broke at that point from all the litigation? This is out of control. It is so out of control. The Justice Department is out of control. And it's not just in the courtroom. We also have this problem happening within the prisons. There was, as I was saying at the top of the report, there was yesterday the House Committee on the Judiciary. Oh my God, I'm actually reporting on a Democrat. Can you believe it? I mean, look, I'm trying to be balanced. I'm trying to be fair is what I'm trying to be. Most of the time, they're kind of off their rocker. But here, the issue is, though, are they trying to release people who are hardened criminals as opposed to, this is like if they're nonviolent, that's one thing. If they're violent criminals, if they're ruthless criminals of child trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and all of this, then it's going to be a very difficult decision. But I want to play one more clip before we get onto the president, because these are going to be issues that are going to be coming up in the next week. These are going to be very important issues. I really think that it's good to pay attention on what happened within the prisons, but we have to be very careful because there's usually always an agenda, as you know, behind what the Democrats are doing. I'm sorry, even if they have a legitimate case, because they cry wolf so much, you can't, it's like, nobody's paying attention anymore. It's like, what are they up to? They're up to something, right? It's probably not exactly it's not entirely benevolent, not entirely altruistic. In other words, there's always some agenda behind it, right? Some other agenda. So let's just listen a little bit to what's going on with the House Committee on the Judiciary that had their hearing yesterday. And we're going to, the chairman is Nadler, and the co-chair is a woman here by the name of, where is she? Bass, out of California. I mean, they're going to know, right? Because you have Terminal Island Prison there with 8 or 9 deaths. They have 70% of the population there infected with COVID-19. And why is this important? Well, let's just listen. This is David Patton. He's the executive director and the attorney-in-chief of the Federal Defenders of New York. And let's listen to what he has to say about what's happening right now in the prison system. And quite honestly, you know, we all may have a loved one or know someone who made a mistake, maybe went to prison, spent some time in prison, maybe made a mistake, and, you know, they shouldn't be paying for their life, you know, for something that was nonviolent and something that didn't hurt anybody, right? They may have done something and made a mistake and done something unlawful or something, but they're not criminals, and what they did didn't hurt anybody else, you know, just broke a law or something, whatever, right? So there's a lot of people like that there because they tend to, you know, try to get they okay, let's just listen. Let's listen to what they're going to have to say.
I will now ask our guests to briefly share their perspectives with us. Mr. Patton, you may begin. We hope you will summarize your comments in 5 minutes, so we'll have time for questions. Mr. Patton.
Thank you so much, Chair Bass and Chair Nadler, for convening today's roundtable. For months now, as you're aware, public health experts have been sounding the alarm about the humanitarian disaster unfolding in jails and prisons. Incarcerated people live, eat, and breathe together by the dozens in tightly constricted and unsanitary spaces. It is the opposite of social distancing. And predictably, as of today, the rate of infection in the Federal Bureau of Prisons facilities is at least 6 times the population at large. At least 59 people have now died in the custody of the BOP. Certain federal prison names have become shorthand for tragedy. Elkton in Ohio, where 9 people have died. Butner in North Carolina, where 8 people have died. Oakdale in Louisiana, 7 have died. Terminal Island in California, 8 have died, and there are many others. And those numbers don't include the many who, as we sit here today, who are hospitalized and on ventilators. The only responsible way to deal with this crisis is to identify vulnerable people, people who pose an extremely low risk of any danger to the community, and get them out. It can be done responsibly and consistent with public health protocols. But despite the extraordinary rates of infection and the mounting death toll, the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons are putting up roadblocks at every turn. They would like the public to think that they are doing something. They issue memos and press releases when famous people like Paul Manafort or Michael Cohen are released. But out of the public spotlight for the vast, vast majority of people, they are doing nothing. In fact, they're doing worse than nothing. They're actively opposing release when vulnerable people seek bail or compassionate release. Every day, federal prosecutors are going into court around the country claiming that BOP has things under control, that the positive test results are low. They, of course, never mention that BOP is only testing a tiny, tiny fraction of the people incarcerated. Federal prosecutors tout BOP policies and procedures while ignoring the facts on the ground and the court-ordered medical inspections, which have found the jails and prisons engaged in, and I quote, a systemic failure. In courthouses around the country, as my federal defender colleagues and I attempt to get people out, we see the intransigence and the cruelty firsthand, and we are not the only ones. Federal judges have referred to DOJ and BOP policies as, and I quote, an outrage, Kafkaesque, illogical, alarming, unfathomable, and shocking. I could go on. Federal judges are using those descriptors because more than 2 months into this crisis, DOJ and BOP still do not have any sense of urgency or a transparent or coherent system for releasing vulnerable people. By its own count, BOP has moved less than 2% of the prison population into home confinement. Its website disingenuously touts a 111% increase in home confinement. All that really shows is how paltry BOP's use of home confinement was prior to this crisis. And DOJ is now taking the battle to resist release to the appeals courts, selectively in courts that they think are favorable to them. They are appealing judges' rulings requiring release or improved conditions.
Okay, I'm going to stop there because, you know, I think one of the reasons why there's some controversy on this, obviously, is everybody knows that prisons are federally funded. And so by releasing these prisoners, they're going to lose federal funds. There's also been, as he said, no accountability by the DOJ and the Bureau of Prisons regarding a plan in order to do compassionate release, to have home confinement for some people who still have to serve out sentences, but under compassionate circumstances. You know, it seems like the states have gone to such extreme degrees to be on lockdown, to force us all to wear masks, to force people to, you know, have the social distancing and you can't gather in groups and all this, and completely ignored the prisons and the population that's in the prisons, as if their life was so much less value than everyone else's. Certainly, there may be some people who deserve to be there, but I think that the argument for cruel and unusual punishment can be made here, regarding people who are in the prison system. And yeah, no, I mean, people who are, I understand that, but you have to realize, I'm reading some of the comments from the people in the chat. And, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, people who murder and rape other people, who put in jail people who, you know, are violent criminals, I don't, you know, think they should be considered for compassionate release. And I think most people would agree with that. I'm not trying to make an argument for that. I'm trying to say that for the ones who are nonviolent offenders, who are, let's say, in fact, the Governor Newsom, right? Nuisance. Governor Nuisance is a Newsom. There's a nuisance. Governor Newsom has actually proposed releasing nonviolent prisoners over the age of 50 in order to reduce the spread of the COVID-19. And maybe for once that might be somewhat a good idea if they're nonviolent offenders. So there has to be some accountability, though, and so because they had this hearing yesterday is why I'm bringing it to your attention, so that unless you're aware that this is happening, I think that might have been missed by a lot of people. So I do give them credit for bringing this up. The question is their intent really altruistic, and are they really trying to protect the inmates, or are they trying to release the inmates in order to gain more Democrat votes? So probably the latter. So yeah, exactly. So just be clear why I'm bringing this up, because you have to see that the DOJ has a systemic failure. You have a judge that's going AWOL over in DC in terms of the law. I mean, he is not following the law whatsoever. You have the DOJ so far hasn't stepped in to that. Well, you know why? Because the courts police themselves. That's what happens. The courts police themselves. So if that's how it works, the courts police themselves. Isn't that a great idea? Who came up with that idea? Who came up with that? What a great idea that is, right? The courts police themselves because they're so honorable. They act with such integrity that they are above reproach, that they do not need to be policed. They do not need oversight. They never abuse their power. They never abuse their authority, nothing. But the reality is they do. And we, the people, are the checks and balances. How do we solve this? I'll tell you, it's really I don't have the answer at this moment, but I'm going to stay on this and I'm going to find out what we can do. I think that the Department of Justice has to clean up their act. I think we've been waiting for Bill Barr to do this. I think that they need to get a policy. They've been telling all of us, let's go to this Tucker clip here. No, Hannity. Where's Hannity? Which one is it? Mark. Let's go to this Tucker clip because I need to show you what's going on in the state of New Jersey. This is how extreme it is for people who are not even sick. We're not the infirmed, and we're not inmates either. But yet, look how we're being treated here. So let me just give you an example to kind of contrast this. This is really insanity, right? Look at this.
We have an update on Ian Smith, a New Jersey gym owner we introduced you to, who's battling the governor of that state for the right to earn a living. Trace Gallagher has the very latest on that. Hey, Trace.
Hey, Tucker, the owners of Attila's Gym in South Jersey vowed to open every day this week, regardless of the consequences. Monday, they were given a citation. Tuesday, they were cited, and a gym member was arrested for violating the order. Today, the owners, Ian Smith and Frank Trombetti, were charged with making a public nuisance, and it gets worse. A police camera is now taking pictures of members as they leave the gym. And our South Jersey Fox affiliate says police then follow the members and issue them citations. Today, Governor Phil Murphy was asked about the gym. Watch.
Inside, no ventilation, close contact is a hard nut to crack. We're just not there yet. You're not there yet on gyms. We're not there yet on indoor dining. Do we want to be there? Will we get there? Please God, yes. But we're not there today.
Late today, the owners of Attila's Gym released a statement claiming 45 minutes after the governor spoke, the toilets in the gym started backflowing sewage, and the gym had to shut down for the day. Tucker.
Yeah, and let me just say that what had happened was the gym owner, you could see some of the signs that the protesters were holding because they said, trust the gym. You can trust the gym. All these other businesses figured it out, right? Even restaurants figured out how to do takeout orders. Drive-throughs figured out how to do things. The supermarket figured out how to put the 6 feet, stand 6 feet apart from each other, stickers on the floor, and wear masks. Every place else figured out how to do this. And so they have a very good argument about, all businesses are essential because we're trying to recover the economy here. And of course, you have the president out there signing, saying that he's declaring that the places of worship are essential businesses or essential services, rather. So, and telling all the governors to reopen, and if they don't, then he will force them through executive action. So, I mean, it's really coming down to, they are testing Trump and pushing and pushing. They are antagonizing this man to do these things. But in terms of this gym owner, he took temperatures of, this is just my follow-up reporting on this. He took temperatures, it's being reported, that they took temperatures of people going in the gym, that they were only allowing a certain number of people in the gym, so they were social distancing, that they were using sanitizers and hand cleaners on all of the equipment before and after every person who was in there. And of course, there was, I guess, times that certain people would go in and use it according to their gym membership, right? So he was figuring it out. Why isn't his plan good enough? And it's just kind of getting crazy. So I just wanted to screen share that with y'all. And let me just check in with the live chat and see how you're all doing. Exactly, because the problem. Exactly, Sherry. The non-violent offenders, why not have the social distancing? The question is it a double standard? Is it really about COVID-19 or not? Is it always about some other agenda? What is the bottom line, right? So obviously the courts don't want, or the prisons don't, because they're public, they're private prisons, right? They're privately operated prisons, and the prisons want to make their money. So, this is what it's about. They should be able to recoup their losses through the small business loans that the government is bailing everybody out with, right? Who knows? But it's also about control. I think there's also a lot of control, and there's also other agendas. Now, in terms of the prison, I think it's great that we're trying to say, look, you have a double standard. How could you say that? Because they're criminals. Okay, they're in jail. They're paying for their crimes, right? They're doing the time. But should they be forced to be subjected to deadly bacteria and viruses that they have no control over? So I think that they have to this is definitely a terrible double standard, but it definitely shows the weakness of the Department of Justice. It shows that the Department of Justice didn't have a plan, doesn't have a plan, didn't act accurately and accordingly for these people in the prisons. And there has to be compassionate release for people who are high risk, like elderly elderly inmates who are nonviolent offenders who didn't do anything to hurt anybody but broke a law on something they did themselves, things of that nature, where it's like, okay, so if you didn't pay the IRS, you're going to jail, right? I mean, why should you be in there with violent offenders, right? If you're 80 years old or you're 65 years old, you should qualify for compassionate release. So I think that's where this is all going. I wanted to just update viewers on that because I think some people may have heard of what was happening with this hearing yesterday, and I just wanted to follow up with that. But you can, I'll put the link in the description section of the video for that. I think it's on C-SPAN. It's at least on the committee website, so you can find that video there. But I listened to each of the people, each of the panelists. I listened to what they said, and I do think that many of them bring up very, very good and very valid points for a change. Did you hear me? You better mark this on your calendar. You better mark it down, because I'm giving the Democrats credit for something that they did, because I think actually they're doing something that, albeit they may have some non-altruistic agenda, there is still some altruistic benefit that will come from this compassionate release of especially the very high, I would say higher at risk population, of course, the elderly, and the whole issue with the nursing homes and all this other stuff. Oh my God, it's so crazy, folks. It's just so crazy. But I can tell you one thing: I'm really glad that I saw a sign today on my favorite bagel shop, and it has reopened. And I think it's only like taken, or you can only have like one at a time in there or something. I'm so happy about that, and I was actually able to go back and get my my lattes today without having to travel like a half an hour to 45 minutes to go get them. So that's good news. I think that's a little bit, I'm happy. I'm happy the bagel shop's open. Okay, so at least, little things, right? The beaches are open, the parks have reopened. Thank God for that, right? But, we really do have to hold these politicians accountable. I mean, there's double standards. They're acting as if, everybody's dropping dead like flies from this virus, and it's just not happening. It's not part of our reality. Okay, so let's move along and talk about what's been going on with the president. And I didn't mean to spend this much time, but I wanted to screen share those video clips because they are self-explanatory and they are extremely relevant to what's happening today. So here we have, last week we have, or at least on Monday, our political theater report with the FETs. And this is the conspiracy to take down Trump, which is what we're talking about with regard to Judge Sullivan and the corruption that that has been going on, within the FISA, DOJ, within the higher levels of the FBI. You can read about it here. Okay. Now, Tuesday, we have, and again, I'm not going to go into the details of the transcripts, folks. You can go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com and you can check out the transcripts. But I'm going to summarize what the highlights of the transcripts are. I'm not going to go into and read them. It's way too long. So this is the massive Trump coronavirus supply effort that the media loves to hate, right? There is a new cardinal rule in journalism: never write anything favorable about the Trump administration's coronavirus response, even about its success, according to the National Review. It's why the story of how the administration handled the potential ventilator crisis has gone almost entirely untold, and why its effort to secure supplies of personal protective equipment, or PPE, has been gotten largely skeptical or hostile coverage. After all, this was not your average bureaucratic response, Lowry says, from the National Review. I did hear today of a lawsuit being filed by a nurses union filing a lawsuit against the state. I think it's the state. I'm not sure which state, because they weren't given accurate personal protective equipment to handle the coronavirus. So we'll see where that goes. I'll keep an eye on that. China is our number one strategic competitor. When it comes to supply chains, our economy hasn't behaved like it. Now more than ever, we owe it to all Americans who have died from the CCP turbocharged coronavirus to change that. The CCP, it keeps Fox News reports. So this is according to Representative Steve Chabot from Ohio. He's calling it the CCP turbocharged coronavirus. Well, whatever. That's where it originated from, right? Democrats and their puppets in the media, once fierce critics of U.S. law enforcement and spying agencies, have suddenly become their biggest champions, at least when the issue is these agencies' targeting of Team Trump. There's mounting evidence of what looks like serious politically motivated abuses by the FBI and Justice Department, and liberals are cheering the abuse. That's why you have to really be very skeptical about when they have hearings like this about releasing prisoners. At least they're having the hearing and there's an open dialogue and you can weigh in on it. It's about giving notice to the people, and it's about people being informed that these things are happening. If there's a safe protocol, if there's a safe plan to have social distancing or have even home confinement for some of the elderly, non-violent offenders, get them out of there. I mean, just do it. So I think you're going to see a big push for this. You're going to see, I believe we will see people released from prison who are nonviolent offenders. I think there will be some argument as to who really will qualify to be released, but it's called compassionate release. And if you have a loved one, you should look into that. And if they are a nonviolent offender, you should look into that. Anyway, let's keep moving along. You know that the president had a roundtable with restaurant executives and industry leaders. We're going to go into this in a little bit more detail. You know that the president wants the economy to open up. He's been very vocal about that, so everybody does know. He says we already have 1,000. This is the head of the restaurant industry, the Restaurant Association. Talking about, they have about, what do they have, 10,000 restaurants. It's that they're representing from this in this roundtable that they had. Yeah, it has to be an essential service because people need to eat, and I don't know why people can't get their own food, but whatever. Already 1,000 locations around the country that have started to open the dining rooms with reduced capacity. Okay. And then they have, added personal protective equipment. They've added social distancing in the restaurants to ensure that people can come in. We have acrylic screens in the front counter. We have masks and gloves for employees to ensure that everyone feels safe. And so this is what you do, right? So if you're really worried about this, this virus infecting people, then you put these measures in place, and then everybody opens up business and we can get back to business as usual, right? So we're going to keep, go to the blog and take a look at the whole transcript. I'm not going to read it here, but it's good to know that there's discussion on this. There's good to know that there's people implementing these. And then if you've been into the post office, they all have like some sort of plexiglass or clear. some post offices have like clear shower curtains that are like, covering the front of the counter and leave just like 6 inches or 4 inches on the bottom, so you can, pass your, your exchange, your money, and your letters and stuff, and your packages. So yeah, people are getting creative. Let me turn this off while we're on this very long transcript. Let's just see. This might be the end of the page. Very, very long. Yeah, okay, it is the end. So let's go to the next page here, and let me just check in with the viewers. Well, I think, yeah, okay, someone in the comment section is saying churches shouldn't be open with all the church shootings. These are people who are triggered. I mean, most of the time these are, people under probably. Look, we're going to be reporting on this very soon. We're going to be reporting on how our bioAPI field around our body, our energy field around our body, easily can be hacked. Anybody can be triggered into just doing some crazy thing. And we're going to go into that. That's probably going to be our 500th GoldFish Report, because I think it's so critically important that we understand this threat and how it ties into artificial intelligence. But it's hardly really the case that someone unstable just gets up and goes starting to shoot people. It just doesn't make any sense. So sadly, these people tend to be triggered one way or another, MK Ultra, or just having your brainwaves hacked, which is easy to do. There's technology to do it. and we're going to talk about that. So moving forward, yes, I just wanted to address that because, I mean, you know, it's true. I mean, they are going to start triggering, because the deep state's going down, that they're going to start triggering false flags to justify not reopening. So we know this. I mean, there's not much we can do about it, but we have to go about our life, right? We have to go about our life. So let me go back to the next page here. Let's see what we have. Yeah, no, that was a very long transcript. Okay, now we're going to go on to Thursday. We're going to talk about press releases from the 21st, and let's see what we have. So this is another transcript, that the president was in a session with African American leaders at Ford Motor Company, and trying to get the economy back, revitalizing the communities and the workforce, and Army Corps of Engineers are going to be working closely with the state and local officials in terms of what happened in Midland County. Yeah, that dam broke over there in Midland County in Michigan, and that was a big mess. It is a disaster there, really. So our hopes and prayers are out to people over there. The president's talking about, in some cases, Florida, for example, he's heard about from 6 governors where they have far more testing than they have people that need the test. So that's something they have to address. This whole idea of testing, though, it's almost like, what are they looking for? Like, why are they testing people? What's with all the tests? So just take the hydroxychloroquine, right? Don't we already know that works? I've screen shared doctors, on our reports previously. In fact, on Monday, I screen shared in our political theater report, doctor in Texas who is prescribing this for their patients, and they were starting to shut her down, in terms of demand, saying they weren't going to fill the prescription. The pharmacy board wasn't going to fill it in Texas, and of course, she persevered though, and was still able to prescribe that medication. But I'm telling you, somebody doesn't want people to be well and healthy. That's for sure. Let me move along so we don't go into this transcript too much. They're usually pretty long transcripts. Should see how long it takes to post these things. Trust me, they're pretty long. Here we go. Okay, here we have next our 1600 daily that comes from the White House. And here, President Trump visits Michigan. So this was on Thursday. The HUD Secretary Ben Carson saw firsthand what a special place that Motor City is. It used to be the most prosperous city in the United States, if not the world, largely due to their manufacturing capacity. Today, Secretary Carson returned to his hometown with President Trump, where they took a close look at how the rebirth of American manufacturing is revitalizing the city and helping all of America defeat this coronavirus. I'm not going to play that clip right now. You can go to the blog and play it if you like. Now, in cooperation with this president and the administration, Detroit is engaged in producing personal protective equipment, as well as things like ventilators and at the automobile factories. The administration is doing everything it can to make sure that the people there have the personal protective equipment that they need. And President Trump is very proud of Ford. We can take a look at this video real quick. Of course, it's shared on the Twitter. Let's listen to what the president had to say.
And you've made really America proud, and you've made Ford proud. And America is very proud of Ford. Right here at the Rawsonville component plant, you're building a great medical arsenal to defeat the virus and cement America's place as the leading manufacturer and exporter of ventilators anywhere in the world. We're now getting calls from other countries, many other countries, both friend and foe, believe it or not. We get calls from foe, and we want to help them out too. And we're making thousands and thousands of ventilators. And I think we really sort of started right over here. We got a call very early on from Bill and the group. And this is incredible what's happened and what you've done. With your help, not a single American who has needed a ventilator has been denied a ventilator, not one. And you've made really...
So that's really good. The president was there at the Ford Motor plant, and He says here Ford Motor's story resembles that of many great American companies across America. In March, Ford and General Electric announced a partnership to meet President Trump's call to increase our national ventilator stockpile. As a result, the two firms are producing 50,000 of these critical machines in just 100 days. Coronavirus isn't the first time American manufacturing has stepped up during a time of need. During World War II, our nation's factory floors became essential suppliers of military equipment. Ford's Willow Run assembly plant in Michigan, for instance, famously helped lead the charge by producing a B 24 bomber every hour. Whoa. Once again, many American workers will go down as heroes during a global crisis. To help mobilize this historic effort, President Trump recently rolled out a new plan to strengthen our strategic national stockpile. Working with Congress, he secured $16 billion to grow our reserve of critical supplies, such as ventilators, masks, and respirators, and pharmaceuticals, ensuring America is fully prepared to meet any future challenge. That's good. I wonder if he's really anticipating this happening again. Might be. So I guess it's good he's taking this precaution now, right? So it's good. While in Michigan, President Trump also participated in a listening session with African American leaders. Earlier this week, he hosted a meeting of his White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council, discussing how the administration can continue to support distressed, underserved communities during the pandemic. Before the virus, African American unemployment reached its lowest level in history, and African American poverty reached its lowest level in history as well. President Trump said today, "Soon our country will be rebuilding stronger than ever before." You're going to see some incredible numbers, the president said. So this is the video of the day with the president. Let's take a look at what this is. This is awesome. I have to say, folks, it's pretty cool. I've been there at the White House when the president took off in Marine One, and it's really cool. I actually have that video on the GoldFish Report channel on YouTube. You can go back to November of 2018, and you can see all my videos from the White House there. But it is pretty cool, I have to say. So he just departed in this video. He just departed for Michigan from the White House there. So let's go back and take a look at here we have the president, of course, approving the Michigan Emergency Declaration. We also have some remarks that the president made before departing onto Marine One. He says he has a lot of good things. We just had a meeting with Mitch McConnell and the group, and we're working on a package of very positive things. We're getting some very good numbers. It looks like the numbers are going to be very good into the future. We're going to be very strong. This sounds just like him. Starting with our transition period, which will be probably June, July area. I think you're going to see some very good numbers coming out, and I'm sure he's talking about economic, right? And next year is going to be an incredible economic year for this country, one of our best. Always paying respects to the people that have lost their lives. We always have to remember that, the people that have lost their lives. You can go here and take a look. He has the Army Corps of Engineers there in Michigan to help rebuild that dam. They probably knew this was coming, folks. The Army Corps of Engineer probably should have been there, just like the Oroville Dam. You know, it's very obvious these dams are about to break. So why do they wait for them to go? And it's just not good to be waiting that long. So this is a transcript here. I wanted to also pay homage to the fact that this is Memorial Day weekend, and we always on the GoldFish Report pay respects and homage to all of the armed forces who made the ultimate sacrifice. It's why we recognize this day and acknowledge this day and acknowledge those who lost their lives in protecting and serving our country, and who were fighting for our Constitution, which apparently the judges are desecrating on, quite honestly. So here on one hand, we have Memorial Day, where we honor the sacrifices that our brave armed forces have have made. And on the other hand, they're absolutely shredding and desecrating the Constitution in the American court systems. I have to tell you, folks, you have to see it for what it is. We can't change something we don't acknowledge there's a problem. We can't, it's like AA, right? You first have to acknowledge you have a problem or you can't fix it, right? So we have a problem. We have a moral crisis, a judicial crisis in this country where everybody passed the buck and all you need is a group of people to monopolize and to sabotage anybody they want using the abuse of power, under abuse of power. It is not, and that's because, our original organic constitution has been usurped, which everybody knows. That's why we are all surety for the debts of the globalists using our social security cards. By signing that SS5 form, what happened? We exchanged our rights for benefit privilege, right? Benefit privilege. We pay now to get a license to drive, when originally we didn't need one. We pay now for a license to go fishing, when originally we don't need to pay to go feed ourselves on a planet we're born on. Hello. So nobody knew this, right? Well, this is the reality of it. Okay, we're not going to go into that in too much detail because that's a whole series of reports to talk about. We're not going to get into that today, right? So let me just check in with all of our lovely live chat viewers. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here on this Saturday night. Hi, Shari. Good to see you, dear. I'm glad to see you in the live chat there. If you like what you're seeing and what you're hearing, please give us a thumbs up. It helps to distribute the video a little bit better. It gets better. And you know how censored we are. So, we could use all the thumbs up that you have. Let's continue. Again, these are some stories that we're going to be highlighting here. 5 stories the president doesn't want you to miss. So again, in Michigan, the visit, Trump calls for Americans to get back to work, expects epic comeback, according to the Detroit Free Press. Making his first visit to Michigan since the coronavirus pandemic began in the U.S., President Donald Trump on Thursday praised the ingenuity of pluck of Ford Motor Company and its employees for turning its Ypsilanti components plant into a ventilator factory. Why would you name something like that? All right. Todd Spangler reports. Ford and GE are jointly producing 50,000 ventilators, as we just reported, right? Okay, so here's an interesting video. Americans who want to work should be supported, not vilified. Let's listen to what the president has to say, because this is important here.
Factory floor operated by the incredible workers of Ford Motor Company. You are demonstrating that we can open our country while taking precautions like social distancing. Americans who need and want to return to work should not be vilified. They should be supported. Unlike many politicians and journalists, for those who earn a living with their own 2 hands, working remotely is just not an option. The hardworking patriots here today answered the call to serve. You're building a great medical arsenal to defeat the virus and cement America's place as the leading manufacturer and exporter of ventilators anywhere in the world. With your help and our policies, this country is poised for an epic comeback. The Ford name will forever stand as a symbol of American excellence, innovation, quality, and craftsmanship.
So here you have the president. Hold on a second. Let's move that along. I have to stop the share to get back to my spot here. Hold on. Yeah. So, he's very proud of the job that they've done. And under the National Defense Authorization Act, they, were able to prioritize and expedite these national emergency equipment. So once again, they've done a great job. But what's funny is it looked like in that plant that it was just a bunch of people who were actually operating robots. So I don't know how many jobs there were, but I have a feeling there's a lot more robot jobs in there than there were people jobs. But hey, let's move along. Susan Rice's mysterious email, the Wall Street Journal is reporting. The large truth here is how has now undeniable. The Obama administration spied on the political competition. It continued that spying even after Mr. Trump was elected, and then it tried to cover up what it had done, which we saw in that report earlier, that clip that I showed earlier with Mark Levin. According to the Wall Street Journal, right? Trump is right to hold the WHO accountable, the World Health Organization. The Washington Examiner is reporting President Trump's effort to hold the World Health Organization accountable for its bungled handling of the coronavirus is well justified. It is outrageous to expect taxpayers to continue supporting an international body that acts as a lapdog for Beijing. Interesting. Here's the letter from the president to the World Health Organization Director General. It's a long letter. We're not going to read the whole thing, but it is posted on. You can take screenshots of this if you like, but he's laying it out very succinctly why he's not going to support and fund the World Health Organization anymore. And you can take a screenshot of that if you'd like, and or you can also go to the blog because it's posted on the blog as well. In fact, this link is on our blog in this report. So you can access this letter yourself. And here is the last letter, the signature page here, which is why it says here, it is clear the repeated missteps by you and your organization in responding to the pandemic have been extremely costly for the world. The only way forward for the World Health Organization is if it can actually demonstrate independence from China. My administration has already started discussions with you on how to reform the organization, but action is needed quickly. We do not have time to waste. That is why it is my duty as President of the United States to inform you that if the World Health Organization does not commit to major substantive improvements within the next 30 days, I will make my temporary freeze of United States funding to the World Health Organization permanent and reconsider our membership in the organization. I cannot allow American taxpayer dollars to continue to finance an organization that in its present state is so clearly not serving America's interests. But you can say that for the United Nations as well, though. I'm telling you, there's actually a whole list, like NATO, that's another one. And I think one by one, the president is going to be dismantling. He's going to be, look, if we're the ones funding for the majority of these organizations, then I'm glad to see the president using the power of the pen to make people accountable and hold these organizations accountable. Let's continue. Yeah, it's already an hour, right? Yes. So I don't know. Maybe we can get it in. Maybe we can close it up very quickly. We'll see. It's okay to acknowledge good COVID-19 news, right? The National Review is reporting the coronavirus has taken a heartbreaking toll on Americans. But the course of the virus is not the same as it was a few months ago. We are on the other side of the curve. There are encouraging signs all over the country and no early indications of a reopening debacle. Richard Lowery writes from the National Review. The question now is whether the media and political system can absorb good news on the virus, which is often ignored or buried under misleading storylines. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a challenge, folks. There are good news. The curve is flattening. Deborah Birx was giving a press conference yesterday, I believe it was, showing the graphs, showing the drop in infections, and it's still not as bad as the regular flu. Like, really? We're doing all of this shutting down and all this craziness because it's not even worse than the flu. At least for the elderly, it is far more serious, but we have to keep a very close eye on this, folks. We really do. There could be another type of virus surfacing, since this one certainly didn't accomplish what would I say would be the depopulation agenda that they were hoping for. So they may try it again, but we'll be more prepared. And we'll have gone through it this time, and we can make adjustments if it happens again. But we just hope and pray that it doesn't, right? So the massive Trump coronavirus supply effort that the media loves to hate, which we've already talked about. Public-private partnerships will lead to recovery. The Detroit News is reporting. It took nearly a decade for Michigan's small businesses to fully recover from the Great Recession of 2008-2009. I'm optimistic these vital businesses will bounce back much quicker this time, thanks in large part to the indisputable success of the Paycheck Protection Program, according to Small Business Administrator Jovita Carranza writes. Okay. And here we had the president having at a rolling to remember ceremony honoring our nation's veterans and POW MIA prisoner of war missing in action. This was at the Blue Room balcony, and they had a whole bunch of bikers drive up. It was raining, but a lot of, they didn't care. These bikers didn't care, they've got all the bikes there they're talking about. It's called Rolling to Remember, and that is really a commemoration for Memorial Day. Together our nation pays immortal tribute to the extraordinary courage, unflinching loyalty, and unselfish love and supreme devotion of the American heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice. And that's what you're here for. It's the ultimate sacrifice, and it is indeed. They laid down their lives to ensure the survival of American freedom. Their names are etched forever into the hearts of our people and the memory of our nation. And I think I have a clip on this as well. You can come here and take a look at this. This is the statement from the president at that ceremony. And here's also some remarks from the president at the Ford plant as well. You can come and take a look at that as well on the blog, the goldfishreport.blogspot.com. Here you have a proclamation, a presidential proclamation for National Maritime Day. Since the founding of our great nation, we have relied on merchant mariners to deliver goods to market and strengthen our national security. On National Maritime Day, we recognize the United States Merchant Marine for all it does to facilitate our commerce and protect our interests at sea. You can come to the blog again and take a look, read a little bit more about that here. Here's more. I think here's another transcript from his trip to Michigan. And here we have a proclamation on Prayer for Peace, Memorial Day. So this was issued on the 21st. And since the first shots fired in the Revolutionary War, Americans have answered the call to duty and given their lives in service to our nation and its sacred founding ideals. As we pay tribute to the lives and legacies of these patriots on Memorial Day, we also remember that they sacrificed to create a better, more peaceful future for our nation and the world. We recommit to realizing that vision, honoring the service of so many who have placed love of country above all else. As Americans, we will always defend our freedom and our liberty. When those principles are threatened, we will respond with uncompromising force and unparalleled vigor. All right, now we're just waiting for the president to enact the militia, right, to go and arrest these traitors who are trying to destroy our country. Sorry, I didn't mean to take away the glory of the moment there, but we do have to see that happen. You can come and read a little bit more about what the president, the proclamation that the president has made there. And let me just check in with our live chat, see how everybody's doing. Yeah. Just want to say hello to everybody. I hope everybody has a really great Memorial Day, and honoring those and remembering those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Let's not forget, folks, that freedom's not free. We are at war, whether one has been declared officially or not, as President Kennedy said in his 1961 speech. No war was declared, yet we are, fighting to defend our principles of freedom and our traditions and our customs, and that's really what's happening right here. So let's go back to, let's continue. Let's see what we got. Yeah, we've got some more here. Okay, so as far as today, up until yesterday and today, I'm going to screen share. We've got some beautiful, and I don't know, maybe I'll end up doing the POTUS reports on Saturday night, because I do like to include the White House photos of the week. Doing them on Friday nights, I wasn't able to include them, and it is a lovely addition to have. People might not normally be able to see these lovely photos taken from the official photographer in the White House. So it's nice to have these intimate photos from the week at the White House to look at. So we may end up doing the POTUS reports on Saturday nights, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm sorry that I keep jumping around with the schedule, but we are trying to fit it in to make it work for everybody. So here you have the president with the meeting with the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council in the White House. You have the president here with many members, and this is the meeting. And of course, this was the roundtable meeting with the restaurant executives. So you have that photo there, the state dining room. You also have, here's the president with the first lady, and this is really great to see her there. So members of the White House Coronavirus Task Force listen as First Lady Melania Trump delivers remarks during a video teleconference with governors to discuss the response to the coronavirus pandemic and ensuring the well-being of all Americans. This was on Monday. That's nice to see. So really one of the first, times to see her involved in one of the president's own, agenda items rather than her own agenda items that she has going. So that's very nice. Here we have the Trump administration is ensuring Melania is holding that up. The first lady's holding up the resources for mental health during COVID-19. She is trying to put the emphasis on the stress that this is causing to individuals, the uncertainty, the stress, and that the fact that there is a lot of people who are extremely worried and maybe having mental health issues as a result of what has been going on. So they're trying to make that information available as the president is trying to focus on the economic impact. Melania Trump is trying to focus on the human impact and the stress and the possible, mental health issues impact that people are having. So it's lovely to see her there to do that. You can see her there. Very nice to see her as part of that table. I like that very much. And you have a lot of other faces that you recognize there as well. Here you have the president delivering remarks on supporting our nation's farmers, ranchers, and the food supply chain, which everybody is very concerned about, of course, especially me, since I can't seem to grow any food. I don't seem to have any luck growing food. I'm really a hopeless cause when it comes to trying to grow things. I'm not doing very good at it. I have a feeling it's not entirely my fault, but I think I'm in an environment, a climate that makes it very difficult for me to get these things going. Because I mean, look, it's so chilly. It's very chilly. This is like, it's a Memorial Day weekend and it's in the 60s. This is crazy. This isn't normal. It's not typical for the Northeast. So I am having some trouble getting sproutlings going because it's too cold. So we'll see if we can get any hope, if there's any hope in getting anything to grow these days. So here you have the Agriculture Secretary, Sonny Perdue, delivering remarks on supporting our nation's farmers, ranchers, and the food supply chain in the Roosevelt Room. So you see lots of great fruits and vegetables there as well. And yeah, I mean, we need to make sure that that our farmers keep the food supply going. Absolutely. Here is the president arriving at the Senate Republican Policy Luncheon at the United States Capitol, right? This was on Tuesday, and you have Jared Kushner right behind him. There you have them. You have Dr. Fauci with his mask on. Yeah, some people said that now that Fauci's wearing his mask, it's like the president put a muzzle on him because he wasn't supporting the hydroxychloroquine remedy to people. So it's kind of figuratively, it's kind of could be literal, but it looks, it's very figurative, right? Here's the president delivering remarks during a cabinet meeting in the East Room of the White House. Look at that. I think that was the room that I was in during that. Yeah, I was in that room. It is quite large because I was trying to think which room that was. But this is where that infamous press conference was when Jim Acosta had grabbed the microphone out of the hand of the intern, and he lost his press privileges for it, which I was there, and that's also videotaped. I was also live streaming that. You could also see that if you ever needed to pull it up from my vantage point when I was there on the GoldFish Report YouTube channel. Okay, so you have the president signing his executive order of regulatory relief to support economic recovery during the cabinet meeting Tuesday, May 19th. Okay, another executive order for relief. The president, here's another snapshot from that picture from that day as well. Yeah. We have Vice President Mike Pence speaks to NASA astronauts during the 7th meeting of the National Space Council. Interesting. Yeah. I think what's going to happen is NASA is going to be repurposed into the Space Force at some point. So I don't think we're actually going to be hearing of NASA at some point. I think it's just going to be the U.S. Space Force, Space Command. But we'll see what happens with that. Here we have Second Lady Karen Pence, joined by Deputy Interior Secretary Catherine McGregor, participates in the ceremonial opening of Clingman's Dome Road at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Newfound Gap, Tennessee. Well, that's lovely. It's a beautiful place, the Smoky Mountains. Beautiful. This is lovely. They have like this observation tower here, and it's a second phase reopening of the park to the public. So that's nice. Look at Smokey there, right? Smokey. There's Smokey the bear in the middle. So it's a beautiful place. You should go visit there. If you haven't been to the Smoky Mountains, it's beautiful. And bring your bug spray. I mean, your bear repellent, right? Here you have the president meeting with Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson and Kansas Governor Laura Kelly. Asa Hutchinson, yeah. Cabinet room of the White House. Here's some more meeting pictures with Dr. Deborah Birx. And you can come and take a look at these pictures in more detail. You have the president boarding Air Force One, departing Detroit, Michigan. You have the president here with the transition to greatness. He tweeted that today. This is the listening session with the African American leaders Thursday in Michigan. And here's more pictures of him at the plant. All electric prototype. You got that 4x4 pickup back there, looks like. All electric prototype. Interesting. We'll see how that goes. Interesting looking mask. Protective equipment, I guess. Yeah, and this is the ventilator here. They're highlighting it. Ford Rossonville production plant of the ventilator. So that's the equipment and here's a mobile test unit made by Ford. So here you have it. I don't know about all this testing, folks, this coronavirus testing, whether they're trying to just collect DNA or what, but I'm very concerned about it. So here's the president as he prepares to land on the South Lawn when he returns. And here's all the bikers. This is a back picture of the bikers for the Rolling to Remember Honor of Our Nation's Veterans. And I'm glad I'm ending with this because I really wanted to pay homage to our veterans. This is Rolling to Remember Honoring Our Nation's Veterans, POWMIA, in the Blue Room balcony. And here they are. And here's the front picture. You can see it's pretty wet there, but it didn't stop these guys. Not at all. And they're right there on the White House lawn. And here's a picture from the balcony. It's just a little bit blurry, but president's always very supportive, very, very supportive. Here's the president again in the press briefing room. And identifying houses of worship as essential and called upon our nation's governors to open them immediately. This is what the president said. He's very serious about it. And here you have Superwoman Kayleigh McEnany, who's doing a fantastic job as press secretary. And here you have Deborah Birx. Look how she's wearing her mask. It looks like she's been muzzled too. figuratively and maybe literally too, to some extent. That's funny. That is just too funny. Waffle House, I guess they're reopening, and I guess they're also uh, figuring out how they're doing their social distancing, or they're, being careful with their COVID uh, new, you know, protection requirements, protection protocols that they're going to implement in the restaurants. And beautiful pictures here. You also have graduates walk into the East Room of the White House to attend a commencement ceremony with President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump and Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, honoring the nation's graduating class of 2020 at the White House. Very interesting, huh? That is quite an honor. Boy, that is so special. And there they are. And there's our First Lady at the podium there. And very interesting. So, folks, there's a lot more interesting stuff here. We are done. We are finished reporting for tonight. I'm just going to check in with all of our viewers. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I tried to shorten this as much as I could, but I really had to show some important issues that are going on in our country this week that we really hope to see. We hope to see, and we have to remember this Memorial Day weekend. We can't let these important people, these veterans, die in vain. We can't let their sacrifice be in vain. We have to carry that torch, and we have to be the checks and balances. And I say this in every, report that I do. We are the checks and balances ultimately, folks. And I don't know if people need an invitation, a personal invitation to stand up and for everybody to unite as Americans, regardless of what party you're with, regardless of what race, religion, culture, because folks, we are indestructible when we're united. When we're divided, we fall. So I want to thank you all very, very much for joining me tonight. I hope you spend some time this weekend remembering those and remembering what we fought, what they sacrificed for. What did they gave the ultimate sacrifice for something. We need to keep carrying this torch. We need to make sure that we return to our organic constitution, that our constitutional rights are not hijacked, or our privileges are not hijacked from us. We are the checks and balances. There's no savior coming in to do it, folks. We have to do it ourselves. So thank you all very much for joining me. And for everybody listening on Ascension Radio, I'm going to continue this. We're going to have a temporary break, and then we're going to finish a conversation with Audrey. Thanks to Audrey Ewis for broadcasting this on Ascension Radio. We do hope you're doing well over there, and we will finish this. We're going to have a little bit like a 45-minute discussion about the topics we talked about and what's going on, and where we have Princess Melania. Yeah. Oh, Sherry Ives is talking about that. Beautiful. So stand by. We're going to be right back. We're going to end this broadcast, and then we're going to come right back so that we can continue with a discussion about these topics if you're interested in hearing for about, I would say, another 45 minutes or so. So everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Please like the video, and if you'd like to help support this channel so we can continue to bring these reports and broadcasts to you, please go to the goldfishreport.com. You can make a contribution there, or you can become a Patreon. And micro funding is a great way for everybody to be part of this, because Goldfish Report is for the people, and it's funded by the people. It's a public social media, and we do hope to keep this going. So one day we will make it back to the White House. I tell you, I dream about being there, reporting from there almost every night. Must be me on another timeline. So, but I will get back. I will get back there. So thank you everybody for joining me. And this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report. Okay, Audrey, I'm going to jump out, and I'm going to send you a new link so that we can start a new broadcast, okay? Let me do that real quick.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, where do you want me to send it? In Skype?
Send it in Skype. That'll be fine.
Meetings. Okay, I'm going to send it right now. Schedule a new meeting.
His leg is hurting. Ankle. I told him to fucking sit down.
Oh yeah, he fell yesterday. The day.
Okay, I believe we're on break. So
John,
yeah, I think Evie went ahead and took the cue and went ahead and moved us to break. So
Okay, I'm going to send you the link right now, and then we can continue for a little bit more time if you want. Are you going to join me in chatting about this?
sure.
You don't have to, but here's the link, and I'm going to.
We're at an event right now, so.
Oh, all right. Well, you don't have to. I can talk about some other stuff. It's all right. Okay.
Well, not quite up to the same level.
Okay, Audrey, I put it.
Live. Let's see. I got to switch the bot. So let's.
Okay.
Let me move the bot to the other meeting.
All right. So I stopped the live stream. I'm pretty sure I stopped it. Live? I'm still live. No, I'm still live. I think I'm still live. Stop live stream. Okay, everybody, this is what happens when you go live. So thanks. Okay,
Well,
we're gonna be right back, folks. We're gonna be right back. I'm gonna continue more of a discussion on more of what's happening with the state of affairs in the country. Stay tuned with us. We're going to open a new link. Thanks for joining. It's still playing my, I don't know how this happened. How is this happening? Oh, this is another live chat. This is odd to me. This is very odd. Okay, this is the discussion. There's everybody. I don't know how this works. Okay. Let's see. Do I have? Yes, I do. Okay. So I want to thank everybody for coming back. I needed to close that broadcast out. I'm not sure if Audrey is going to be joining us. No, this is not the right one. Sorry, I'll be right back. This isn't the right